Hey everybody, I'm Green Havoc, and today we're going to be talking about the playoffs. I gave a little bit of a playoff update earlier in the week, but we're going to be talking about the stage playoffs, the season playoffs, and the all-star game, all that and more on this episode of ESHQ's GG. Well played.
Justice reigns from above.
No one can hide from my sight.
Cheers, love! The cavalry's here!
Alrighty, here we are, and I am joined by a couple of our analysts. We've got good old Cyanize here, and Bushido Viking rejoining the desk, and none other, perfect timing, because obviously we're going to be talking a little bit about those Soul Dynasty boys.
Yeah, it's been painful being a fan.
You know what? I know the feeling this week, so...
Yeah, Spitfire.
It was a weird game to watch them lose to the Dallas Fuel. We'll get there in just a bit. I want to first talk about some of the stage playoffs, because obviously we have some teams, especially with Dallas's, for the stage playoffs at least, exciting win over the Spitfire.
Oh, yeah.
Making some moves. So I want to ask this question first. Who do we think is going to make the stage 4 playoffs?
I mean, that really hurts the London Spitfire for sure. It really puts them into question to see if they are going to actually get up in there. And I for this meta and the teams that are easily falling into it, I don't think they're going to have a spot. So clearly, I think it's going to have NYXL going up in there easily, of course.
Well,
right?
that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Valiant.
I feel like the league's chance for NYXL missing it is more if their players decide, do we really need to go? And they start just being absent from games.
Right.
I feel like that's the league's chance of NYXL missing the playoffs or the stage playoffs.
I mean, they've been in every single one, too. So that's...
so had Spitfire, right? Or do they only missed one?
They missed stage 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's when the Gladiators came in, kick some butt for a round. Anyways, we're looking at Valiant for sure taking this. They've really bloomed in this meta. I feel like they really solidified. Stage 3, they looked a little bit wonky, but now, they're on fire.
Yeah, and you know what? The Valiant is a great conversation as far as a team goes, because they're a team that when you look at them, in the current meta, you don't think they should be doing great. You don't think they should be doing poorly.
Right.
But you don't look at them and go, that team inspires confidence. But one of the things I like most about what the Valiant have been doing is they're like, all right, our Widowmaker play is a little weak, so we're going to play like this so that our Widowmaker gets support.
Yeah.
Ooh, our Brigitte and tank play, is a little, it's young, so we're going to play like this to help compensate. They're so good at compensating for their weaknesses.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's actually the most interesting thing, just watching. I've been a fan of Valiant since they, started, and they always have been one of the teams that play the best as a cohesive unit, and they're always supporting one another, and they're one of the few teams that I feel like has changed the least out of not changed as in gotten better, gotten worse, but their team itself. It's just kind of you haven't seen too many shakeups, too many switch arounds and stuff like that. And I feel like Valiant's really earned this because of that. It's because of the being able to accompany Soon and make sure, because he's always been the team lead. You always, when you think of Team Valiant, you think of him, right?
Yeah.
So
he's definitely one of the star players. I mean, he's been this week. He has been.
He's dumb.
Yeah, it's been great to watch him play, and really, the last two spots for me are up in the air between most of these teams. We're looking at Fuel possibly being able to reach that. We're looking at Shock, Gladiators, Houston, Spitfire definitely still have a chance. However, I feel like the team that's going to be taking this meta to heart and really honing their skills is going to be able to take those spots. So I'm looking at Gladiators, let's see here, Fusion possibly, and Outlaws are really the three are going to be, those three are going to be taking those bottom two. I don't know who at this point, but those three are really taking this meta to heart.
Yeah, I feel like Philly or the Philly Fusion, and then the Houston Outlaws are actually kind of in the same boat on that, where it's like 1 week they'll show up, and you're like, okay, this is a team that could make it, and then the next week you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
What happened? You know, it's just
Yeah.
like it's the inconsistency is the problem. But
Yeah.
whereas Dallas Fuel, I mean, with the huge upset against Spitfire, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
And it's one of the things, and we'll obviously talk about it again, kind of in the season playoff picture. But it's one of the things that, especially for the Soul Dynasty and the Spitfire, and I know you share my pain with this, is we don't see that same level of support that the Valiant show. It just kind of seems like they almost assume they should just win fights,
oh yeah,
and you're sitting there and you're watching them and you're like, all right, why, you know, like, okay, this whole like Ryu Jae Hong on tank thing, it's not working. Why are we still doing that?
right.
Or,
They're always so stubborn. I feel like no matter what, I'll be like, well, why are they staying on this character when it's clearly not working?
Right.
And like, I guess they're just stubborn about it. Like I don't really have an answer to that, which is what's really terrible. And we don't really get a response to that. It's not like after the game, if you talk to the coach or whatever, they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm the one that told him to stay on it, or I'm the one that said it might work, or I don't know. It's super frustrating.
they're very closed door. They keep it really tight to the chest, which is, I guess admirable in some ways, but as a fan, sometimes you sit there and you just want to be able to go like, so like, why didn't we run Bastion on Junkertown? Why weren't we running Brigitte?
Right.
Like,
right.
It's these questions that just don't get answered, and you drop what feels like silly games.
Right.
But as far as the stage playoffs go, for me, I personally would love to see at least the Shock stay in. Obviously, one, because I'm a fan. Two, though, because I think it would be exciting to see some of the other teams interact in the playoffs. I think it's really important, and ultimately, I am hoping that both the Valiant and the Gladiators also make it in.
Sure.
Because I feel like without extra levels of confidence,
Right.
no one's beating the NYXL.
Yeah. 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 That'd be amazing to have a whole California get together, you know?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I want the Valiant and I want the Gladiators to make it as well. I mean, Gladiators has been one of those teams that have actually probably been my favorite to watch this stage.
Yeah.
I've always kind of liked them, and I've rooted for them because they were always the underdogs. But now with Fissure stepping in with the Reinhardt meta, who's probably the best Reinhardt in the league right now,
I think
especially
it's
with
like him or-
XQC leaving.
It's like him or OGE, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So like watching him is always just a delight, especially as like a Reinhardt player. Like I'm always just super impressed, and I'll watch him stream, and like he gets like his ult and then uses it, and within that same span gets his ult back within like 6 seconds and drops 2 hammers, and it's
Right.
like I don't what like
Yeah.
it's mind blowing. So yeah, I want to see Gladiators up there. I feel like they've deserved it, and I feel like they deserve a piece of the stage playoffs. Valiant is probably just going to be there just because of how consistent they've been playing. NYXL, obviously. And for the last one, honestly, I would like to see the Outlaws make it. As much hate as I give them, it's just because I enjoy giving it to them. Just because they've let their fans down for so long. I would like to see them there. But saying that, with letting their fans down, I would actually prefer to see Fuel in there because I feel like they're the ones who've adapted the most to this meta with the most Brigitte play out of any other team. And it works. So I want them there.
Yeah, and you told us off the air before, Siegel playing Hanzo is just so much fun to watch.
Well, Siegel's always been a good Hanzo,
Yeah.
too. So now that he's actually being able to be played, which is weird because I don't think they have the most recent Hanzo, right?
They do
No,
not know.
correct.
Right. So, but Hanzo, my point is Hanzo's always been good. It's just like you've never had a comp to really run him in the league.
Exactly. The dive was just too easy to go and counter him.
Occasionally we would see it in the early stages in Dorado, you know.
Hanamura A.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You'd
yeah.
see Hanzo, and they're still getting picks. They're still getting kills. So
But they
it's like
switch off
you can
fast,
always run them, though. So, yeah, I love it.
I agree.
For me, the big reason I wouldn't like to see Fuel in the stage playoffs is just because I feel like if you put them up versus the Gladiators, the Valiant, or the NYXL, which right now look like are going to be the ones that take the stage playoff other spots, they're not flexible enough to beat them, which is why they lost so decidedly versus the San Francisco Shock.
Well, with that being said, no one thought Fusion was going to beat Spitfire.
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean,
There's always that chance, but Yes, it's on paper, statistic wise, 100%.
I just think with the way that the playoffs work with the best of 3 instead of
right. No,
I just
get
feel
it.
like
you'll be able to adapt easier,
Exactly.
and they're not able to meld and adapt. I get what you're saying.
And so, not that they maybe don't deserve skill-wise to be there, but I mean, for me, I'm more thinking towards the season playoffs in testing some of these other teams.
Do you think Outlaws would do better, though?
No.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. I'm
not
sure you think San Francisco would perform better than any of between Outlaws and Fuel, which is a fair assessment. I'm just curious. If that's how you feel.
I think the Fusion and the San Francisco have the best chance of making the NYXL, or even the other 2 teams have to show more and really work for that extra level of a win. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Even when the Gladiators beat the Philadelphia Fusion 3-1. You don't look at that game and go like, oh, like they beat them 3-1. They beat them competently.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, when you watched like the San Francisco Dallas game, it's like it was 3-1 also.
Sure.
But Dallas looked good on one map.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and that was it. So for me, and that's why I would say I lean towards San Francisco and Philadelphia Fusion, just because I feel like that would, if either one of those teams play NYXL, the Valiant or the Gladiators, they're going to make those teams reach deeper into their team roster and skill, talents and whatnot. And I feel like, especially for the Gladiators, they need teams to do that to them.
Yeah.
Because we've seen them just buckle under that when their name's called.
Right.
So
They're a team that can play during the stage, but when it comes down to it, when all of the peer pressure is on them, they need to work on that 100%. And all of these games matter as well. All of these games matter, especially for this end stage, but more importantly for the end season, the finals. All of these games, it's a race. It's all of them matter, all of them count, and I want to know what we're thinking for those bottom 4, because I'm sure we know the top 2 teams that are going to get. Well, actually, not really. With that Spitfire loss, they're looking like they're going to be losing more and more games. So maybe not the top 2.
Well, the one thing for the Spitfire, as far as the playoffs go, is where they are sitting. They need 2 wins, 2 wins, and they statistically can't be knocked out of the playoffs. And the season playoffs. Yeah. And the big thing with that is, since they're not playing for anything above their station, NYXL already have it locked down. Yeah. You just got to find 2 wins. Sure. I believe they have a game versus Shanghai. Shanghai has been looking better.
That's a free win, though.
But
let's be realistic.
Right.
They haven't been looking, even with Spitfire looking shaky versus the Dallas Fuel, I don't think they look bad enough to lose to the Shanghai Dragons. And on top of that, they've still got, 5 games left in this stage, and they need 2 wins. I'm not ultimately, for the London Spitfire, it's not time to panic at all. 2 teams I do want to talk about as far as potentially time to panic are Boston Uprising and Seoul Dynasty. Before we go to Seoul Dynasty, because I actually feel like Boston might be in a bigger lane of upset for the season
100%.
Playoffs than
100%.
So I want to start there with. It's funny to say that they're in 4th place. They're not the Outlaws looking into the playoffs.
Right.
They're not the Gladiators teetering on the edge. They're not the Fusion looking into the playoffs. But I feel more nervous. I feel more nervous that the Boston Uprising are going to fall out of the playoffs than I do about the Outlaws' chances of, winning 7 games and making
but
it.
That's fair.
I mean, based on your stats, 25 wins is what you're basically looking at for a in the playoffs. You're in, and they're at 22 right now.
They need 3,
and they have not won a single game, and they have 5 games left to win 3. They need to win more than 50% of the rest of their games in this meta.
Yeah,
can they do it?
So that's a good question. Just being on the Boston Uprising fan site, not fan site as in like on Facebook and stuff, watching their posts and stuff like that. I mean, you'll see people just hating on them. You'll see people reaming on them. But then you'll have like the Boston fans who are just like, yeah, well, where were you before the win streak came? And that's really is the question. Yeah. Is like, how many people were Boston fans before that win streak happened? And so when that win streak did happen, they were on a roll. They were doing great, and all of us were even blown away. I was really excited, but even Green Havoc was like, "Well, how long will this last?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's what it comes down to." And I think the reason that we need to panic is because it wasn't just like, okay, well, now they're mediocre, now they're doing okay. No, now it's they can't get a win in.
Yeah.
So you went from like, it honestly reminds me so much of the Outlaws. Remember that when that happened, when like they were on fire, and then all of a sudden they were just like the biggest lose streak aside from Shanghai, right?
Right.
No, they
map-wise.
the longest map win streak goes to the Outlaws, and the longest map lose streak goes
They
to
were
the
just in a
Outlaws.
drought,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my goodness. But now Boston looks that same way. But the thing is watching these games, watching Boston, they're a lot closer than they look. Like if we look at like 3-1 or whatever, and then Boston lost that, okay, those points were going into overtime. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like those points, like it wasn't like, you have to watch the games to know more than what the points are showing.
Right. Yeah.
Because like their stat wise, they're not even that bad. Like Boston's still doing good. They can't get the win in. They can't finish it. They can't play the full 60, as they say in hockey. You know what I'm saying? Like you just can't finish it.
Yeah.
Boston's they should have beat the Spitfire.
They should have.
The Spitfire, I don't want to say got lucky, but Boston shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Well, that's the thing is they took advantage of it. Like Spitfire, as they should. A good team would take advantage of that situation.
Both are games versus, and it's kind of fun to hear actually, but Shock and Dallas were the two games that watching the Uprising play, I went, no, they don't deserve to win.
Yeah.
Sure.
Not at almost in any point in the game did Boston step up in a way that said that they could beat those two teams,
Sure.
which is really fun to say.
Yeah.
I mean, even Boston versus Gladiators, it was. I mean, Gladiators had it pretty handled, but it didn't look awful.
Sure.
Okay.
But so I just want to real quick go over them. So these are the teams that Boston has left.
These are the 5 games.
These are the
right?
5
and
games.
they need 3.
They need 3.
Okay.
Next week, they start their week off versus Seoul Dynasty,
That's going to be interesting.
which is a must-win game for both of these teams.
Okay.
Here is where their mettle is tested.
Yeah.
They have the Shanghai Dragons. And
Both teams are 0-0
I would say,
right now. Yeah.
In general, that goes to Boston.
Hopefully.
Don't you put your black magic on
Where
this.
where does the pressure go? That's that right there. So they have 5 games left. That's their 4th game. They would be, if they lose to Seoul Dynasty, they're in a point where they have 4 games and they have to win 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. Even though it's the Shanghai Dragons, that's a lot of pressure.
I'm confident in them against the Dragons. So what's the people?
The next the week after that, they have the NYXL
That's going to be a loss.
as their first game.
I'm just saying, Boston has been one of the few teams that surprisingly can beat them.
However, in the meta where they looked most dominant,
I understand.
they did get 3-0
I understand.
on
I'm
format.
just saying,
Yeah.
I've seen crazier things. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And then their last game is against the Florida Mayhem.
Okay, so
So-
Shanghai and Florida, we're confident that they can get those 2.
So
Well, we'll see.
Really?
I would
right
say,
as they're right now.
I would say
and I have a thing about that.
yeah, I would say they should be able to get the win versus Dragons. If say a player pops off in mistakes is playing Widow the way he's been playing, where they have to force Striker over to the Widow who couldn't take care of Bird Ring, couldn't take care of Architect, and say a player can dominate the Widow game. In the current meta, one of the things that we've seen is that when Widows get going and you don't have an answer for them, there's little in the game that stops them.
Right. So here's my thing with Boston Uprising. First, second stage, they didn't do so well in the beginning, and they started getting and ramping up near the end of the stage. Changes were made. They started back down to the bottom, worked their way up to the end of the stage. Nothing happened between stage 2 and stage 3, and so they're already at peak. So that's why I feel like they went undefeated, because they really got to handle the meta. And if we go back in our videos, I said that they were not going to do well in the beginning of this stage just because of the meta change.
I remember.
So now We're looking at those first 2 stages. It's already halfway. They're looking like they're having close games now. I feel like they're getting a handle on the meta now, and I feel like they will be able to get those wins with the remaining games.
I think it's a relatively safe bet. I think it all comes down to just team mentality. They need to pull back together. What we can't see is Stage 1 Boston, where they were this close to the playoffs, things started to get rocky, and they fell apart versus the Outlaws.
This is a different team than it was in Stage 1.
It is 100%. I agree
Honestly,
with that.
most of the teams are different than they were in Stage 1.
Very
Very
much
little
so.
show like how they were, whether that's for good or
I would say
bad.
the Excelsior is
Better
the
or worse.
only one that basically just said,
Been
all I do
consistently
is win.
Yeah. New York Excelsior.
So let's talk about some of these other teams here in the standings for the playoffs. Now we have 3 semi-similar teams. We've got the Houston Outlaws, the Los Angeles Gladiators, and the Philadelphia Fusion.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say so, similar.
All of them are basically staring each other in the face right now. The Gladiators are in 6th, the Philadelphia Fusion are in 7th, and the Outlaws are in 8th.
Right. Right now, I mean, their team makeups are ridiculously, and I'm talking about the individual players. They are like one-on-one. They are copies of each other, but on different levels. For me, they all have a great Reinhardt player, but Gladiators right now has Fissure, which is the best Reinhardt.
Best Reinhardt in the league, I would say.
All 3 have pretty Outlaws as well as Gladiators have great snipers, Lynxer and Surefour.
And Carpe.
And Carpe, yeah. So all
Carpe's
3
so
have
good.
right. So whoever can win that, and then they all have the same makeup, and it all depends on whether or not who's popping off on those games and who can really carry it.
Well, I think I know what's going to happen with that.
What do you think?
I think, and I'm sorry to say this, but I think the Outlaws are going to choke.
Oh, you know what? It's actually something I was going to talk about is the fact that for the Outlaws, they're in must-win games.
That never goes well for them.
And I know the Dragons are improving. And sometimes I feel like they don't get the credit they deserve. Dia's been playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
His Widow stats are in the top.
We were just talking about
top
Otto
8 of the league.
on
Otto,
Genji.
absolutely. Gregory is always putting up great tank numbers. And so I know the Dragons are good, but they hardcore struggled versus the Dragons in their game.
I mean, it's a good time to be a Dragons fan. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you're a Dragons fan, this is the time. Like,
And so, no, I 100% agree with the Outlaws.
I think they're going to choke.
I'll put it this way. I think, honestly, for the Philadelphia Fusion, as much as I don't want to say this, and the Outlaws, I think it comes down to who chokes harder. Do they choke harder? Or do Boston Uprising and Seoul Dynasty choke harder?
Well, Sinai's and I were just saying how Fraggy has really been struggling in this meta. Like, just as far as tank, because he's one of the top tanks usually. And, like, in this meta, it's just like,
I mean, he's been replaced with Sato and everything, but the reason for that is because I feel like he's a little bit too aggressive. And this one, you really got to time.
He's just playing Winston. You're diving in. You're being aggressive. That's usually how Winston's played. Because really, how else would you play a Winston? Like,
and
for the most part.
Fraggy notoriously always played his Reinhardt very similar, but it's so easy to punish in a Brigitte meta.
Yep.
Yeah.
So easy. It's just like, okay, well, there you go. You lost that fight. And then what do you do?
Yeah, if you don't have a Brigitte watching your back,
I think that's why Philly is where they are right now.
Yeah. And if you're not playing off your Brigitte, that's huge. So that combination between the two is missing with them.
Out of those 3 teams, I think if I was a betting man, I would put it on the Gladiators to be stepping up out of those 3 that are locked in an old fashioned Western standoff. It's like, who's gonna win? Well, Outlaws are gonna drop their revolver, like they're just gonna be like whoops or whatever,
no.
and then Philly's gonna go to jump and pick it up, and then pop pop. Gladiators are just gonna McCree it up and take it out. Like,
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that we see, the big difference, because Carpe, Lynxer, and Surefour, they all look amazing one week, subpar the next week.
Lynxer is just the notorious with that though. Like the most notorious out of
out
the
of
most
all 3,
notorious
yeah.
player I can think of that does that is Lynxer though. Because 1 minute I think he's like the best Widow, right? I'm just like, oh my god, he's so good. And then like next week I'm like,
Wait, did I like this?
it's like this isn't the same team. It's not. And like I feel bad for the Outlaw fans. Like I'm really getting the same Dallas vibes from them, where it's just like I feel so bad for their community because I mean like Outlaws have a great fan base. Like they have a fan base
Yeah.
who just
Yeah.
loves them and like
The whole Texas
stands
team,
by
yeah.
them, and it's just like, God, I feel so bad.
They all three of them have Zenyatas who at times look amazing between Boombox, Shaz, who I think is the front runner of the three.
Shaz
and,
is so good.
yes.
And Raucus, who recently has been looking out of form, but I mean, throughout stage 1 through 3,
Boombox stepped
was
up hard on Zen.
I
yeah,
mean,
too.
was a front runner for Zenyatta play. I think the big thing that edges out edges the Gladiators over the other two is the fact that Fissure is more consistent
Sure.
than
Oh, yeah.
Sato or Muma.
And that's what I'll always say in this league. I mean, you've heard me say it once. I mean, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. It's that consistency is what wins games in this league. And Fissure is the best Reinhardt consistently. Like, even outside the league, just watching him, he's so good.
Yeah.
And there's very, very, very few times he gets outplayed or chokes. So, but Fissure has a lot to prove because of, Spitfire dropping him.
And yeah,
And look at it now.
one thing I will say, because there was some drama actually in the Gladiator house. Fissure apparently was very upset with his team on the Stage 3 playoffs. He felt that the only reason they lost that game was because they didn't take it seriously enough. Fissure went over to a London Spitfire dinner and was wearing his London Spitfire jersey.
No.
The whole time.
Wow.
How
And,
does that feel, Cyanide?
It's scary. It's scary.
A lot of people think it is kind of his way of being a little like look, I have options.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just leave. And,
Gladiators need him, man. Like,
They 100% do. Yes,
So-
they were lacking the tank in the beginning. They got him.
they
and
got him. It's like,
they
do
really tried
not
to leave.
lose him,
Exactly.
Gladiators.
They need to keep on rolling. They need to keep on trying their hardest. 100%.
So here are our last two questions.
Yep.
Basically, as far as this
I know
goes.
it's coming.
Well, I guess 3. I almost forgot about the Soul Dynasty. I benched them. No, but before we go to Soul Dynasty,
Yeah.
right now, the Gladiators are in striking distance to be able to take the Pacific Division and claim the bye. They're 2 games down from the Valiant, but the Valiant play NYXL in their next game. NYXL obviously is the favored team.
Yep.
If NYXL beats them, it's a 1-game gap.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll say about the Valiant is they're a consistent team, but the problem with their consistency is they consistently lose to the same teams.
Sure.
Which, to me, says that they could still lose to the London Spitfire, despite the London Spitfire not looking great.
Yep.
Fair.
However, with the Gladiators, they have always looked good versus the Spitfire. They've looked about the same versus the NYXL. And as far as the remaining schedule, it is definitely possible that the Gladiators make up that 1-game difference if the Valiant lose to the NYXL.
Right.
So let me ask you this. You're our LA group over here. Well, I guess all of us are the California group in our
It's
own
true.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
We all have a
we've-
team.
We've got Valiant. We've got Gladiators. Who is going to take this Pacific Division?
That's a tough one. Because looking at the maps as well, Gladiators don't have them on the maps. And if it turns into a tie, which is more than likely, looking at their schedule and everything like that, I think Valiant are going to go ahead and take it, because it really is hard to one up another team when you basically are neck and neck. We've seen many ties throughout the entire stages and season. So because we haven't been taking those maps, I feel like Valiant is going to be able to take the Pacific.
Okay.
Interesting, because if what you say is true about the whole team fighting within the Gladiators, I mean, that's going to hit even when you're playing. That follows, and that hurts the in-game vibes and like the all-around feel.
It could also solidify them.
I mean,
I don't think that would happen.
it happened. They're doing great so far.
But I think Cyanide hit it out of the park. My team, my California team, is going to take this division, and it's going to be the LA Valiant Wings Out.
All right. Well, so the just for the sake of discussion,
Sure.
let's say the Valiant lose versus Excelsior.
Okay.
Right. That is the game that is happening as we record. Going into next week, these are the teams that they play against.
Yeah.
The Valiant play against London Spitfire as their first game.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Gladiators play against Excelsior in the same day. The games after that finish out the week with the Gladiators versus the London Spitfires and the Valiant up against the Houston Outlaws.
Yep.
So both of these teams going into the into next week have a really rough time. The following week is the Valiant versus the San Francisco Shock. That game could go either way. I lean Valiant in current form.
Yep.
Gladiators versus the Shanghai Dragons.
Okay.
Then Valiant finish off the stage versus the Dallas Fuel.
That's gonna be a good game to
Whereas
watch.
the Gladiators finish off the stage versus Seoul Dynasty. So there's definitely a lot of wiggle room in the teams
Right.
that these in these games that these teams are playing. I think it's fair where you guys landed, where Valiant on the merit that they have the game advantage, can carry that into the end of the season, but it's definitely gonna be a fun race between these two.
Oh, yes.
100%, yes.
Absolutely.
So I know you're dreading this one, but here we go. We are going to wrap up this segment with the conversation. What is going on with Seoul Dynasty? Are they going to be able to stay in these season playoffs? Currently in 5th place with a 21-15 record, plus 16 map differential, directly tied with the Los Angeles Gladiators. The only thing that puts Seoul Dynasty ahead is the head-to-head record with the Gladiators. They are also tied with the Philadelphia Fusion at 21-15. They are behind on map differential at plus 11. The team above them is the Boston Uprising at 22-14 with a plus 16.
So I think we know what's going on with the Seoul Dynasty. I mean, this has been a build-up. I mean, you look at me in every season, right? I mean, every season, every stage that we've been building up. And there's always the question I have for you, and there's always the question that you have for me, and then we just end up talking about it, and always just comes out to the same thing. They don't know what they're doing, all right? Yeah. Seoul doesn't know what they're doing. And I love them. You understand? I love them, but it's so frustrating. It's so sad right now that I genuinely don't want to watch them play. That's how upset I get watching them, because
I get you.
It's just not satisfying to me. It's okay, even when we had the Trinity, it was NYXL, it was Spitfire, and it was Seoul Dynasty. Those were the top 3 dogs, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm so happy that it gets shaken up, because that's always boring. You don't want anything to stay the same, especially in an evolving game like Overwatch. You never want it to be stagnant. You don't want it to stay the same. So watching them, though, the decisions that they're making are just so odd. I just don't understand, Jaehong being moved over to, tank, and then that really wasn't working. Now, I'm all for trying something new, but, sticking with a decision that's obviously not working, when do you let it go?
Yeah.
When do you say, okay, this isn't working, we need to switch back, or we need to change? And losing Bunny, it was Bunny, right? Yeah, that okay, so when it originally happened, we were all kind of oh, that sucks, so we're gonna miss him,
right?
And now it's just oh god, do we miss him, right? Just nothing's working.
Yeah,
it feels like nothing is sticking. They're just taking a bunch of ideas and throwing it at a wall, and it's just slowly rolling down. It's just okay, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working. So I kind of don't want them to make the playoffs, admittedly. I kind of don't want them to do it, because they need a wake-up call. Something has to be you suck, because you're not going to think that, when you think you're really good, even if you're taking losses, I have off days, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think I suck ultimately, but some games I suck, sometimes games, everyone has bad games. Don't ever think that you're not going to have a bad game. And sometimes it is your fault, but Dynasty obviously can't rely only on Fleta, or if they are trying to rely only on Fleta, they need to be like Valiant and just feed Fleta. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to make the Fleta the Soon of your team, which he is, you might as well just accept that. Run Fleta, just make the best of him, because Seoul Dynasty on paper is actually a pretty good team. Way better than what's showing. And they just need to get something together, or they need to do it the way I say in hockey, and you just need to break the team down, get rid of people, and rebuild, and just focus on rebuilding. And that's the thing. If they don't make the playoffs, rebuild. I don't care what you have to do. Just make something that works, because whatever's happening right now is not working.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion. And I say that out of love, because I love the team and I want it to work. So if it's not going to work, break it apart, rebuild it, or just keep evolving, but don't stick with things that aren't working too long, where you won't have time to evolve anymore. So, they're just not adapting.
Okay. The last question I have, and I don't actually think there's an answer to this.
Okay.
is there a team in the Overwatch League in current form? And I know there's a month break between the Stage 4 finals and the season playoffs.
Yeah.
But in current form, is there even a team right now that looks capable of taking the Season 1 grand finals away from the NYXL? Barring, silly mistakes, things like that, bad
Top
game.
form.
Yeah, just
all
top
full
form.
potential.
Honestly, and because it's the inaugural season, I don't think it's a bad thing that this is the case. I don't think anyone could actually beat them if everything was on tip top. This is it. This is what it is, and that's really not a bad thing. I mean, when we're looking at like a sports history or a franchise history, so the Overwatch League history and the inaugural season, NYXL has probably performed the best out of any team, no doubt, right? So for them to go and technically win it all, well, they were the best throughout. Like, I don't know, like an upset would be kind of weird to me. Like, it would be like, well, NYXL was the best team, and then, well, they dropped it.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
kind of like, all right, like, I guess, like, I love the underdog story. I love seeing that, but I don't think anyone would be surprised if NYXL won. And I don't think it would be a problem if they won. I don't care if they win, actually, is what's odd. Like, I just want my teams to do better, and I want my teams to get better. And I'm sure that's the Shanghai Dragon mentality, It's like, okay, we're getting better. We're rebuilding. Let's just focus on that. And I think that's what a lot of our teams, we just want to do. You want to see Gladiators just do better. You want to see
of
Fuel
course.
do better.
And if they win,
all it is.
that's awesome. But yeah, I agree. I
But
don't think there's a
no
team right now.
expectations to beat NYXL, I think.
I think the closest we could come in current form would probably be.
I feel like Spitfire might be the closest.
I was
in
hearing. I was like,
skill.
I hear
It's-
Spitfire on his lips.
if-
Here comes Green Havoc with the Spitfire.
I'll put it this way. I have faith in
On paper, they could.
I have faith in the Spitfires in the playoffs. They've I mean, against a Philadelphia team that looked red hot going into the playoffs. The Spitfire, who looked good, not great, gave them a run for their money.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
The Spitfire are a team you can never sleep on, but ultimately in current form, I think the only two teams that really have a shot versus the NYXL would probably be the Valiant or the Shock. In current
interesting.
form.
Yeah.
In current form.
Okay.
And
I think Valiant could.
yeah, no, I like I said, I think
I think
Valiant,
that's very fair.
I think the Valiant and the Shock both have the pieces that would be required. They have the right flexibility. Yeah. They have the right youth and willingness to change and try to just try something different if it's not working. So I feel like those two teams are the closest we can get to it.
Sure.
However, there's a fun period of time between the Stage 4 playoffs and the season playoffs, and that is our All-Star Game. The All-Star Game is going to be voted in by everybody, you and me alike. And what that is you can go onto the Overwatch League site and you can vote in your team. We're going to do our own little All-Star team here. But one thing
fantasy draft.
essentially, and one thing I liked, one thing I didn't like about the way they're doing it is you can just pick multiple players from the same team. So when you look at the Atlantic Division, you go NYXL.
Yeah, but that's dumb.
So what we're going to do here is that you can only pick one player per team for the two divisional teams and see how
Which
they
is how it should
stack
be.
up.
That's an all-star game to me.
Exactly.
And most usually it's two players, I believe, that they do. So, yeah, that's what it should be. It should just be two players if we were going to go to the max. But I like this one-player idea because it makes it a lot harder. And, honestly, it would make the teams a lot more interesting. And certain team members from other teams getting to play with this team, I mean, watching them get to win and shine, like members from like Shanghai and stuff like that, like showing what like their true potential really could be, which would be interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start with the Atlantic Division.
Sure.
Sure.
Should we just get rid of the player and the team? The NYXL. I feel like everyone is just. If you don't go Jonak, you
Which
just don't.
Jonak, 100%.
Yeah.
Sabiolbi could be made a case for, and I made a joke about Libero because, I mean, Libero is good.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, compared to Sabiolbi and Jonak, we're taking Jonak.
Yeah.
See, and the big reason for me that I agree with this decision is because Sabiolbi's amazing.
Yeah.
But Striker is really close to his ability. Prophet is really close to his ability.
Right.
Pine is amazing.
But who's close to Jonak?
Exactly. You know,
on the Atlantic side.
there's
Sorry,
no
in the league.
I was gonna say in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single person who's not signed to the Overwatch League who plays Zenyatta and is saying anything but like, man, I play similar to Jonak.
His playstyle's mine. I do more damage than healing. And my healing is horrendous, you know.
Yeah.
I agree.
So no, I agree. I totally agree. Jonak takes the slot, not to discount any of the other NYXL players.
They're where they are for a reason. But
Yeah.
Jonak. Yeah.
So Jonak. So all right, let's focus on supports. As far as other supports, I feel like we need a Mercy.
Of course, yeah.
She's been a mainstay in the meta, and I will say of the other Atlantic teams, I lean Bonnie.
Okay.
He's shown a really well played ability to know when he should res, when he should heal, his Valk times. Like
he definitely is a stable pick. I think out of all the Outlaws, I think he's the best choice out of them, because if you look at their tanks and DPS and all that stuff, there's better players on other teams.
Yep.
So I think
this
Bonnie
is
is
the
a good
best
solid choice.
player to take from the Outlaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
So we have our supports. We have Bonnie and Jonak. It's pretty good, solid.
Actually, that's pretty good.
Right?
We've got the Spitfires, the Philadelphia Fusion, the Boston Uprising, and the Florida Mayhem left as far as slots. We have 2 tanks, 2 DPS to fill. Here's where things get a little interesting. We've got Carpe on the Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah.
Obviously, we also have Shadowburn at EQO on the Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah.
We get it, guys who like DPS. We've got Striker.
Yeah.
You know? But I really lean towards Seiya player. I like Seiya player.
I mean, he's a solid choice. Who else would we pick from that team anyways?
That's really a harsh way of saying it.
From
But
Mayhem.
Sorry, Mayhem. I am so sorry. I feel like saying...
That's just
I feel
how
mean.
you feel.
I mean, okay.
Sound like it
But
is.
they have Sinatra, so...
well, that's
no,
on the
it's
shock.
Oh, shoot. Never mind. I can't wait until we get to the other side. So, my word...
He 100%
We're
meant
going
that.
Seiya player.
Yep, he meant it. You heard it here first.
To
ESHQ
Logic,
headquarters.
Sorry.
So we got Mayhem out of the way. I mean, we got a DPS. Sorry.
All right, so
I'm done.
Say
sorry.
a player from Mayhem. There, we're done. Mayhem's gone. Next.
So DPS wise, I really like Striker.
I mean,
love
he's a solid
Striker.
choice.
I love Striker.
I feel like the debate has to be between Striker and Prophet. Between those two, and because if you pick Striker, you're picking Gesture. If you pick Prophet, you're picking Gamsu for those their tank
All right,
opposites.
I'm going Striker.
I'm going Prophet.
You know where I'm
He's
going. I Striker's
just-
good.
Striker.
Striker. I'll put it there. I think Striker's better tracer. Striker's
No, Prophet's better all around. I know. All right, I'm gonna say it. All right, Striker's better, or
But we
Prophet's better
do-
all around. We already know.
Yeah.
But Striker on Tracer though. I mean, we already know. So, but fine. We'll just go
Well,
Prophet.
I mean, getting Striker on that team does open up some good tanks for us.
but it helps with 3
But
people. though,
Gamsu
because-
Gamsu is in the top 10 of all the tank stats as well. So
mean, at
it's
least
not like
you're
we're
not
taking
picking-
it.
10,
Well, at least it's
though.
not Bird
I don't know.
Ring. So
I mean,
if you want
for
to
some
take
of those-
Prophet over Bird Ring, sure, yeah, whatever.
Oh, 100%. 100% taking Prophet over Bird.
That's just my
If
jab
we're-
over Bird
If
Ring.
we're talking stage
he just
one,
lost to his Zen in a 1v1 with his
Yeah,
ult out. So it's like
It
that's who I
happens.
want on my all-star team.
it happens to the best of us.
All right. So
But so I think that leaves tank wise. I mean, Gamsu and Poco.
Yeah.
Poco for the Philadelphia Fusion. I think he comes out as a big front runner as far as diva players.
yeah,
go.
okay, that's fair. I mean that's we do need those tank players, and Gamsu is the best choice from
Unless you want
Boston
to
Uprising.
go Note and
Okay,
Sato.
no, I'll allow that pick for Boston, but who are we picking from Philly?
Poco.
Really? Like, it's not terrible, but really?
Sato is pretty.
That's just
I would-
depressing to me. It's like, out of everyone on Philly, like, that's who you want in your all-star game? Like,
Hey, he's Mr. Fireworks. He's Mr.
good. I'm not
5K.
trying
Open up the Overwatch League. Hey, everybody, welcome to the inaugural Overwatch League season. I'm Poco, and here's your 5K. Kaboom.
no, I don't.
I feel like we have Jonak. We should be fine.
God, this is just savage.
we're just gonna pick 6 Jonax.
Yeah.
6 Jonax versus
That'll be them.
anyone else.
Oh,
The other team can have 7 players.
yeah, right. So
All right.
All right, fine. We'll take Poco.
okay, Gamsu and Poco.
Okay, so I like so
bad.
Gamsu.
I'm not happy about
Yeah.
it.
Gamsu Poco,
Yep,
Seiya player Prophet,
yep.
Jonak Bonnie.
That's a great team.
Okay, when you hear it like that, it's
Yeah.
a good team. But I'm still not happy about it. But yes, that is a good team.
Right?
All right, we're heading over to the Pacific Division. I feel like the Pacific Division's. You know what?
This one's tough.
I remember
This
you
is
saying
hype.
this,
This
and I'm
is
going to give you all the credit. You said this off air.
Mm-hmm.
Mickey starts us off on supports.
Yeah,
Has
Brigida.
to. Yeah.
So-
I mean, what other? They do have some pretty good players on their team. I
love Siegel.
You could definitely take Siegel for his Hanzo and all that stuff, and he has a wide range of heroes.
And if OGE was in the other division,
right, and if
and
this
not
meta,
going up against Fisher,
yeah, and if this meta wasn't appropriate for anything, then I could
But yeah,
definitely not see
Mickey
but
from Fuel.
Mickey for his Brigida play 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that especially if we're building with a Brigitte, I think Fissure is the next obvious choice.
I would love to see them play together.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, no doubt. Like, I'm already more excited about this team. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like,
Right? We got to go in there and just get those two together.
Yeah.
Like we have to go on the official
the
site
Brigida
and make
Ryan
sure we
combo
get that. Yeah.
and
So-
Fisher and Mickey.
Oh my goodness.
As good as it gets, really.
Here's where things get a little
in this
interesting.
league,
Yeah.
anyways.
Here's where things get a little interesting, because we have Soon and Dia, who have both been. Soon was solid throughout the league,
Yep.
but he's really starting to show that he is the backbone of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Dia, who played in Undead's shadow, but is now starting to go like. By the way, I'm like a top 5 Widow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then an Architect as far as Widow players go.
Yeah.
But I feel like to really narrow down some of these teams, we need to get a Diva out of the way. Or
Okay.
an off tank, I should say, out of the way.
Well, because we already have Ryan. So we either need a
yeah.
Zarya or we need a Diva.
And we know Zarya on the Dragons is pretty good.
That's
Gaguri?
probably the best Zarya.
So do we want to take him or
and-
do we go for that Genji play?
And you know what? I agree ultimately with going Geguri because so it's Geguri, Space, and Choyobin for me. Those are the 3 big ones. Choyobin of the San Francisco Shock, Space of the LA Valiant,
Yep.
and Geguri of the Dragons. I think what edges Geguri out, and let me know if you agree, is the fact that she is a more competent Zarya player than the other two. The other two, I would say, are equal to, if not more consistently good on the Diva.
Yeah.
Right.
But that flexibility and the
Sure.
fact that we're going kind of a Brigitte comp, I feel like that is a little more required. I mean, where do you guys
I would-
go on that?
You already know mine. I chose.
They're going Geguri?
Yeah,
Okay.
Geguri for sure. For me, I mean, you guys can outvote me. That's fine.
I'm
We're building this team together.
I don't know. I like the flexibility pick. I like
do.
what you're saying, but at the same time, it's just like it's my dreams coming true. It's Brigida, Reinhardt, Zarya. Like,
Right.
so I'm just like, ugh. But let's go with the hybrid pick.
Yeah,
it's safer because
So-
remember we have Jonak on the other team now.
Yeah,
so
true,
like
true.
we need that. Yeah, we're going with the hybrid.
So
pick.
going Geguri. All right, which means we have one healer left,
Yeah.
and we have 2 DPS, which
So
means
we want to take Otto from the Dragons on Genji.
well, we can if we take Geguri.
All right, we're taking. All right, yes.
We're not taking Geguri.
No, we're doing Geguri. We're
taking-
doing that.
we're
We're
taking
taking Geguri. Dragons are done.
You know who?
Fine.
Actually, you know
It
what
just
we need?
sucks because like
You know what we need?
Otto and Genji's so good.
He is. You know what we need though? We need a team captain. We need someone who can lead.
We do, and I think we know who we need.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
We're gonna-
Jaehong, right? We're not joking.
No, we're taking 2 players from Seoul Dynasty. We're taking Fleta. We're taking Jaehong. We're benching Fleta and putting Jaehong in the game.
No, but seriously, if there was a 7th seat,
We'd make it a bench.
Okay, no. So are we taking Fleta or are we taking Jaehong?
I think we got to take Jaehong on the merit that he can play Ana, he can play Zen.
Yeah.
I mean, he can fill in some of the other tank roles if we want to go for a more.
Who else played Reaper but Fleta? Exactly.
Kariv
Stop it.
of the LA Valiant?
No.
we're already taking Sun
has-
from
So,
Valiant.
so if
Are we taking
we're
Sun?
honestly picking Jaehong for his hybrid ability and his ability to lead, fine. I'll accept it
Yeah,
on that merit. Like,
That's what we're
all
doing.
trolling aside. Like, yeah, he's great as a
yeah.
leader. Like, it's ironic because Soul Dynasty isn't doing too well, but he's obviously well respected and he commands well. So, in the captain spot, I will accept that.
And I also think he is one of the only Zenyatas in the league who can actually play against Jonak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very fair.
He's definitely one of
Because-
the top
So, do we
three.
want
Yeah.
Jae-Hong on support then? But he'll also be captain?
Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right.
That's fair.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll
like
accept
that.
it.
So we've got so here's the big question.
Yeah.
We've got Agilities, who has been playing insane.
And we haven't taken Soon yet, right?
We have not.
Okay.
Agilities, who has been playing insane flex DPS for the LA Valiant. Soon, who has been playing insane hit scan flex for the LA Valiant. I should say a projectile flex
Yeah.
and hit scan flex. And then on the other side, we have Sinatra and we have Architect, Baby Bay, and Dante.
Well,
I
Baby and
ultimately-
Dante, no.
Right.
If this was stage 3, I would make a bigger argument for Dante.
Right, sure.
But in the current stage, Architect and Sinatra versus Agility and Soon.
I choose Architect and Soon. That combo would be awesome.
You don't think that's too much hit scan?
That's actually what I was going to add on to that. Because Agilities is often in Soon's shadow, and Agilities is almost always just as good as Soon.
I feel like
Because, like, him on Soldier, I'm just like...
I do like Architect though,
on Hanamura, you just see him pick
Yeah.
up Soldier, you're just
Yeah.
like, okay, well...
and Soon just
But Soon's so good.
Soon with the projectiles is incredible.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is I feel like, for me personally,
Yeah.
this is my vote. I'm going. Now I said Soon off air, but for me, I'm going. I've changed my mind. I'm going Agilities Architect because I feel like we need a Widow who is consistent. Because say a player is a monster.
Do you want Soon, though? Because I'll go with you on Soon if we want Soon. I'll go in on it with you.
All
Otherwise,
right.
Agilities
Well,
is fine.
what about the other team? What are we taking? Because
It's a tough one.
Yeah, there's like, who else
yeah.
do I take? It kind of sucks that I have to get like wedged in this way because it's like when you're on the volleyball or not the volleyball, the dodgeball court, and you're just kind of looking. You're like, all right. Well,
so
who's
I
gonna-
mean Sinatra and Soon then would be
2 Tracer players.
yeah, we're
But,
doing
okay,
it.
come on.
No, it's just crazy that Soon's not at the All-Star game. It's not right.
well. I mean,
Well, again, he could maybe make
could be.
the benched roles.
But Soon should be the.
Dante and Soon.
Dante. Okay.
What are we doing here, man? Like, we can't do that to Fissure. Fine. Man, that's crazy that Soon's not making this. I can't do this. This is actually bugging me. Like, I'm thinking of this team makeup.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
this team's so good, and then you're not going to put Soon on there. But see, Agilities is really good. Fine. I don't know if I can handle this. I'm breaking right now. Like,
See, I'll put it this way. So this is the last flex I could see happening.
Yeah.
If you remove Jae-Hong, replace Jae-Hong
all right,
with
well,
Fleta.
you got me there. I'm
Because
listening.
Fleta can play the projectile heroes,
Yeah.
and he can play the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
That's true.
Then you have Soon, who plays the Tracer, McCree, that kind of the more
Sure,
hit scan flex. And then you move over and you put...
We just need Jae-Hong on Zen though, because we were going against Jonak. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you can't switch
That's
that out,
the
and we
anchor,
need the
you know?
captain. So,
So, you know what?
Agilities,
It has to
we'll
be.
do it, and Architect.
Okay.
that's
That's
fine.
fine.
That's crazy to me.
The-
Soon better be on the bench with Fleta then, or
They
something.
can play patty cake together.
Yeah, because like this is ridiculous, man.
Yes.
My teams keep getting like dicked over by you guys.
Well,
This is making me mad.
See, you can't say that because Agilities has come so out of his shell in
Yeah.
this
But
final
he's
stage.
always been good.
Yeah,
but
he's
you're
always been
correct.
good.
You're correct.
Yeah.
He's like finally like blossoming, right?
Yeah.
You're like Agilities, yay! It kind of reminds me of Hydration in a sense because Hydration's always been kind of good,
Yeah.
but now like Hydration's actually been like, oh okay, wow, yeah,
I can
So-
do stuff.
yeah.
Right.
So our teams, our Atlantic team,
Mm-hmm.
is Gamsu, Poco, Prophet, Bonnie, Jonak, Seiya player versus
This is a steamroll. I'm sorry.
Mickey,
This team
Jae-Hong,
crushes them.
Fissure,
Yeah.
Architect, Agilities, and Geggery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no,
give
Pacific
it Pacific
won.
100%.
Easily.
Like It's crazy.
Atlantic has the support and has.
I think it
the
all
support.
comes down to how many
Yeah,
times.
you got,
I think it comes down.
Jonak and Prophet.
I think it comes down to this: how many times does Jonak get to just wipe an entire team?
Sure.
How many maps do they play where the Pacific team can play in a turtled, fight in the choke,
Right.
Reinhardt, Brigitte
I was gonna say,
style?
how often is he gonna wipe with his right click against a Reinhardt and Brigitte? Like, really?
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah. So Team Pacific all the way, pretty much on this one, in my opinion.
That's gonna be a tough team to beat.
It's gonna be a tough
Fissure,
team. I think I think the big thing the Atlantic side has is they're more flexible.
Yep.
I think
That's true. That's true.
The Pacific side obviously has the more set in stone defense. The big thing though, our Pacific side does not have a mercy player, so that is their exploitable weakness.
Yeah, that's
So-
a tough one. That's a tough one.
But we are reaching and surpassing our normal time limit. So as far as this episode goes, that's the GG, and keep it well played.